I'm Allie with PotomacBeads. Join me in making Anna's beaded beads featured in our nice October Best Bead Box. Remember, if you do want to check out the links below, you can see what you get every month in your subscription. Gather up your box or your supplies and let's get started. We're going to begin our beaded bead with a simple stop bead. I have 5 feet of thread here, which is longer than it needs to be for the one bead, but that way if I'm using the green Wildfire .006 thread, I have enough on here that I can make a couple of my beaded beads. You'll get enough supplies to do several in your bead box. What I'm going to do after putting on a stop bead, which is a bead that will come off the project, is we're going to start making this as a flat piece. The nice thing with that is as you learn the flat piece, you can decide to keep it flat if you would rather have it as a cute bracelet look. We're going to begin with some right angle weave, and I have pinch beads here in the metallic mix color. You can use brass gold, a lot of Aztec gold, any of those pretty kind of fally golden colors. You're going to put on 4 beads for a transitional right angle weave, and then we're going to sew back through the first 3 beads. 1, 2, 3. Again, just like traditional right angle. If you prefer, you can do this whole starter step also with 2 needles. Coming out there, I'm going to add in some of my 4mm pearls, and I have the pearls in a nice dark color. It's a dark gray. The nice thing with this is it's going to match brown or black as you're wearing it. We're going to pick up 2 of our silver lined smoke color here. Then we're going to pick up 1 of our pearls and 2 of our silver lined. This is also going to be right angle weave. We're coming out of the right side of the first box, and what we're going to do is add the 11 pearl 11, and we're going to add the 11s as our bottom, the pearl as our new right side, and the other 11s as our top. Sewing back through the bead that we came out of, I want you to go through again the first 2 seed beads and your pearl. Coming out of that, repeat 2 11-ohs, then another one of your pinch beads, 2 11-ohs, and back through the pearl. Coming out the top of the pearl, I want you to sew into the bottom, again to get that right angle weave. When you sew in the bottom for that right angle weave, you have your thread coming out the top through that pearl, which is now going to be the left side of that little box. I want you to sew through the 2 seed beads at the top, and the 1 pinch bead down the side. As you do so, that completes your 3rd piece of your right angle weave. Your first being your first block, then you have your 2nd and your 3rd. We're going to add, because it's a tray, 3, we are going to add a total of 3 of our pinch bead right angle units. They're all going to be connected by our 11-ohs and our 4mm pearls. Coming out the bottom of the pinch bead, add 3 more pinch beads, sew into the top of the pinch bead, and then again over to the right hand side of that pinch bead little square. I'm going to repeat this 2 more times, adding in another pearl section and another one of my pinch bead sections, the start of a pearl section, and then I'll show you how we're going to round it out to make it a nice rounded unit. From here, I have my seed beads and my 3rd pearl. I'm going to go through the seed beads just like I was going through and getting ready to connect, and do more seed beads. And for this right angle unit, instead of picking up a new pinch bead, and you can see how cute it is just as a little bracelet design, and then the embellishment you can still do, I'm going to round it out right now and then add the embellishment. We're going to add 2 more 15s onto your thread and needle. I'm coming out the bottom of the pearl. I'm going to jump back over to the last of my pinch beads, and I'm going to be sewing up towards that stop bead. Make sure that you're not sewing through the stop bead. Coming out the top then, add 2 more of your 11-oh seed beads and sew down through the pearl that you were coming out of. You can see now that it makes a nice little kind of ring Literally, you could wear it as a ring. And we're gonna pull it in even tighter as we basically pull the beads kind of to the back, adding another little pearl element as well as some 15-0 seed beads. But that's how you're going to round out the bead for that nice start of the beaded bead. Once you're coming out the pearl, you're gonna go through the 11-0 seed beads right beside it, or below it really. And we're going to now add in some 15-0s that are gonna sit basically underneath the pinch bead, forcing the pinch bead to sit up so that one of the 3 sides for the Trois Fleur are sitting up towards the top. So we are going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of our 15-0s in that nice limestone luster, skip underneath the pinch beads, and go through the next 15, or the next 11s in line. See how that kind of pops them up in place there? You have a nice little entrance there. So through the next 2 11s, and again, pop up the next section by adding 3 or 6 of our 15-0 seed beads. So 4, 5, 6 go on your needle, scoot underneath it, and then sew through the next 4 11-0s. What this is going to do is basically get the pinch beads pulled in tighter and make this more of a beaded bead look. It's also going to set up our pinch beads to add our bezeled chatons to the interior. After you go through and you do the first 3 sides on this right side, I'm going to sew through the 11s that I started with, and see how it sometimes wants to go to the top. Just push that pinch bead up and give it a nice tight pull to pull those 3 seed bead sections into the bottom. From here, I want you to sew through the pinch bead. And we're basically going to do the same thing on the other side. So through that pinch bead there, catch on to the 11s. Coming out the 11s then, you're going to repeat the same thing on this side. Go ahead and add in your 6 seed beads, sew through the 11, 6 seed beads, and so forth, till you have both sides completely done, adding in that nice little firming aspect of the 15-0 seed beads. As you add in your last set of your 15 seed beads, again, you want to make sure that they go underneath that pinch bead. Give a nice tight pull. What we're going to do is add another row of our pearls. So the pearls are going to sit directly below the pearls that are to the top, so you can see kind of there. To do so, I want you to sew through, so we have groups of 6 here. I want you to sew through the first 5 of your 15-0 seed beads. Once you sew through those first 5, grab a pearl, skip over to the next section of seed beads, skip over bead number 1. We're going to sew through 2 through 5, and then out. So you're going to have 1 before and 1 after that you're not sewing through, the first and the last. Tighten that up. Over to this side. Again, skipping over the first one in the next section. And everything that you're doing here, hence the name, is in groups of 3. So now that I have 1 in there, I'm going to add 2, and I'm going to add my 3rd one in. When I add my 3rd one in, I'm going to skip over then that first 15-0, sew in through 2, 3, 4, and 5, and out. To tighten it up, I'm going to sew through my first pearl again, and to get to the other side, to tighten that one up, I'm going to sew through the first bead of the first 15-0, and then over to the opposite side of the project. I'm going to go through the 11-0s. As I go through the 11-0s and out, I'm going to go through the pearl. As I go through the pearl, you want to go through the 11-0 seed beads that sit after it, and through the first 15-0 that you come across. Exit after the first 15-0, and then we're going to do the same thing on this side. Now, if you wanted to, you could have stayed on the same side and added in the round pearls prior to going over and doing the exact same thing on the opposite side. There is no exact science to one better than the other. I'm going to sew through beads then 2, 3, 4, and 5. Come on out. It's just whatever is easier to learn. Add in your 4mm pearls. Again, skipping over bead number 1, sewing into 3, 4, and 5, and pulling that pearl down. Again, what this is accomplishing is it's making a nice firm section to be able to put your cord through for your beaded bead, and also it's popping out those pinch beads towards the exterior so we can add our chaton in. I have 2 more to add in. Skipping over bead number 1, sewing over to the next section of 6, skipping bead number 1, skipping bead number 6, and adding in my last pearl. Going back through then to tighten it up through my pearl that I added. And as you see now, that really kind of firmed up this beaded bead. If you don't like the bling look, you can add in something else. If you want to keep it flat as a bracelet, you would have skipped this whole section here of pulling it together, and you would be now getting ready to add in your chatons. Once you're done adding in your 3mm or your 4mm beads rather along the sides, what I want you to do is get your thread and needle after the 4mm through the 15, and then come on up through your IOS bead. What we're going to be doing is laying our chatons, our bezeled chatons here. We're going to be laying them on top of and in between, creating our little centers of our flower. To do so, go ahead and pick up 1/15, one of your chaton, and when you go through the chaton has basically 4 holes. They run along the back and they intersect in the middle. We're going straight across the chaton. We're going to add 1 more 15-0, and then after doing so, we're coming out the bottom of this pinch bead rather, and we are going to go into the top of the IOS that sits across. Making sure then that the IOS kind of sits right in there. Grab another 15, sew through the opposite hole, so the holes are kind of sitting on a diagonal to the corners. Go through that other hole, pick up 1 more 15, and sew back into the original pinch bead. Push those 15s in there and make sure they stay towards the interior of the design. And what that's going to do is cover up your thread and really kind of push that chaton towards the top. Going along the side then, sew through after coming out through your 15 or your 2/11s. After coming out through the 2/11s on the side, or going through the pearl, doesn't matter, and the 15 or the 11s on the other side. Come out again, another one of your pinch beads, grab your next one of your chatons, and the chatons, the important thing to realize is that you want to sew straight through the back. If you happen to sew on an angle, sometimes your needle can come up and pop up the chatons. So that's really important that you don't want to pop the chatons out of place. Wherever you're coming out of on your pinch bead, you're going to go to the opposite side. Coming out the bottom left, I'm going to go into the top right. Make sure your bezeled chaton, if you have a Monty, you can also use that. Or you can even use a 2-hole round duo mini or a round duo. Go through after adding a 15, the other holes of the chaton. Give a nice tight pull to get it tucked in there. Add another one of your 15s and back through that last pinch bead. When you're coming through the last pinch bead there, you'll notice that we need to get to the other side. So to get to the other side, you're going to sew back through your original right angle weave. I'm sewing through my beads there, back through. You're just making sure wherever you're sewing that you're following a thread pass, because you don't want any extra thread to be showing. You're going to come out the last of your pinch beads, And now it's time again to add in the last one of your bezeled chatons. And you can see as it's laying down how it sits nicely just right on the corner and right on the edge there. We're gonna add in our last chaton, going in and straight through again. 15 chaton, 15. Coming out again, we'll go to the bottom so that way we stay consistent. Bottom of that pinch bead, I'm going to go to the top of the one that sits directly across in the same right angle unit. Force that chaton to sit upright. And see here how my chaton kind of wants to sit to the side. Just give it a little push down and make sure that it goes into the interior. Grab a couple more 15s. If you have the box, dump a couple more out. Put the 15 on. Go straight across them, the open holes at the bottom of the chaton to the opposite side. Add a 15, sew back through that pinch bead. The last thing we need to do is just tie off our thread ends. So I have my first one there. I've taken off my stop bead. I'm going to go back through my 15s, or sorry, my 11s on the side. Wait for those thread ends to match up and simply tie them in a knot. It's really easy when you can get your thread ends to match up, and if you have a project like this that has some bigger holes that you can hide the thread. Rather than burning both edges of my thread down right here, because my needle is still on, I'm going to tuck this one further down into the project, going back through some of my 15s, pulling that thread in, and then grabbing my burner and burning down my 2 thread edges flush towards the project. There are so many variations that you can do on this design, and I love that most beaded bead projects, instead of going in and creating the beaded bead project as a beaded bead, you can keep it nice and flat and make it just a really fun little bracelet. When you do so, add a couple more seed beads along the outer edge, maybe 8 or so, which will keep those seed beads kind of popping out towards the side. Once you're done your beaded bead, you can grab a nice little necklace chain, put it through there, pop it on, change them out. And the great idea of this is you can do multiples. You can do them singular, like you can have them all looking a little bit different. And also if you want to incorporate them into your beaded design. Remember, you can do this as a ring, you can do it as a bracelet, or you can have fun making tons and tons of these little beaded beads. Thanks so much again for joining me in making this Trois Fleur Beaded Bead, featuring the best bead box design by Anna. Remember, if you do want the box, want to check it out, see what it's all about, you can click the links below to shop with us online at PotomacBeads.com, as well as check out some video links there to see what's in the box. As always, remember to comment below with any questions and any idea changes and variety to the design that you may have made, whether or not you made it a full-on bracelet, a couple beaded beads, or even a ring or an earring design. This technique really works as a wonderful building block to expand your knowledge and make you a better beader. As always, thanks so much for joining us, and have fun creating your multitude of beaded beads.